Yes, that's right. It is MAFFS time on a Monday night. I am not Nick Stoll. I am Josh Parrish. We are free from Stoll's Spanish reign of terror, or I should say Catalan reign of terror, on the podcast today. This is the show that answers the big questions. Is Perth Glory the most fun team in the A-League? Is Angel Torres the most fun player in the A-League? And when will Brandon Borrello return from injury? All the big questions answered on this week's edition of MAFFS. Joe Simon, always good to have your company.
I'm fired up today. I don't care what you ask me. I'm going to go for a long rant, and you boys just need to sit back and relax, okay? That's how it works around here now.
Are you about to put us in our place? Are you about to expose the undercurrents?
Absolutely. I've got some things I need to put off, to get off my chest. And look, it's just lucky Stoll's not here because he was number one on my hit list.
Well, the tinfoil hats are at the ready for the conspiracy that goes deep. It goes right to the very top. Teo Pellizzeri, how are you?
I mean, the Socceroos went out, but really, should they have kicked off at that time? Wasn't it a bit too hot to play?
I think we have to ask questions of the pitch. I mean, why did the Korean players stay upright while the Australian players were slipping all over the place? You know, we demand an investigation. And we've got Nick DeBarno with us this week. How are you, Nick?
Good. I don't have a kind of little inside sort of reference to make, so I feel like I've come to the party. It's like
Captain Serious.
What?
We were about to get our Top Gear deal, and you've just come in and you've just sharpened us all up.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe I'm just the bearer of bad, I guess. But no, I don't have a reference, unfortunately, to the match, but it's good to be back on the podcast nonetheless. It's been a very eventful few days in Australian football, and let's try and make it fun, shall we?
Yeah, let's crack on. Joe, I'll start with you. What made Australian football fun for you this week?
Oh, so much to choose from, Josh, this week, wasn't there? But I'm going to go with Paul Izzo's double save. I love nothing more than a double penalty save. And I think, I've been Alex Paulson's number one fan all season. Since round one, I've been voting for that statue the whole time. But I think with the double save on the weekend, does Paul Izzo deserve his own statue?
Yeah, I mean...
maybe not.
Phenomenal.
Maybe not yet. Like a little.
Well, either of the penalties that. Sorry, Nick.
I'll say a little commemorative trophy, maybe not a statue, just
a statuette.
Yeah.
I mean, where do you stand on retaken penalties, Joe? If you're in Apostolos Stamatolopoulos' shoes, easy for me to say, are you going the same way? Are you sticking or are you twisting?
No, you twist. You have to twist, and I think that was. I think personally, if you've chosen a side on the first penalty, you go straight down the middle because I feel like the goalkeeper, especially Izzo, was fired up. He's diving, so I think you go second straight down the middle. That was his biggest mistake.
That's exactly what Luton did in their game where they had to retake the penalty against Newcastle as well.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, what have you made of the Jets this year, Teo, with Stamatolopoulos, the Renaissance? He's had his trials and travails all over Europe, but he's back in Australia, bagging goals, and didn't let the double penalty miss get him down.
Can I confess to not having watched this game due to being on air at the same time?
The simultaneous kickoff. Well, I'll go to you then, Teo. What made Australian football fun for you?
A degree of irony to this, because just last week you quizzed me about breaking transfer news on air. And little did we know on Dubzone last night, we were about to do more or less exactly the same thing because a couple of players are leaving, but the club still hasn't announced where they're going. So they are going to have to wave goodbye to Caitlin Torpey. But I'm sure they won't be baying for retribution when Liz Prue leaves over at Melbourne City. And of course, congratulations to the Preston Lions, Josh. Hopefully, you're getting a nice little knock-on percentage fee of Caitlin Torpey's transfer fee. Not often you see women moving for money as far as, actually paid under contract players. Normally, the player just gets released and moves on a free transfer. So good business by Melbourne City. And Preston Lions, don't forget to get your little knockoff percentage of whatever you're owed for Caitlin Torpey.
I'll be getting in touch with FIFA this week and making sure the trickle-down economics is at play.
There could be $12.50 in it for you. You could buy yourself a sundae.
A kebapi roll and a can of soft drink. That'll do it for me. But I mean, Torpey her evolution into a striker at Preston. I feel like, Dan Foden has to take some credit here for, the steps that she's taken as a player. He's transformed her not only into a flying wingback, but also a deadly attacking threat.
A lot of A-League women's teams are going to need coaches next season, and maybe Dan Foden's name should be at or near the top of the shortlist for all of them.
Here. Nick Tabano, what made Australian football fun for you this week?
Well, this is a little bit boring because I know he's a bit of a MAFFS favourite, but whenever Angel Torres scores multiple goals, it's always a lot of fun. But I feel like we've reached the threshold of double digits where now I can finally rest, because before the first game of the season, I don't know if you guys remember, but on the A-League socials, he did a sit-down feature where he kind of shot his shot and went, I'm going to score 15 to 20 goals this season. Now, I knew that the receipts were being saved after I quote tweeted and said, I think he's going to tear it up this season. I just had this gut feeling, and I saw there were a few bookmarks. I'm thinking, oh no, this is going to come back and bite me, especially after the first few weeks where he hadn't scored. He got red carded. I'm thinking, I was
commentating when he got sent off, Nick. I mean,
yes.
There are slow starts and then there are backwards, and he actually set his stocks back from when he signed after the first 5 games.
Well, then all of a sudden now he scored, 11 goals in all competitions, 10 in the A-League, scored 2 on the weekend against Adelaide in what was an incredible win. But it's almost like he said, this is what probably makes it the most fun. It's almost like he said, I'll score 15 to 20 goals, but I'm going to give you all a head start. I'm going to start a few weeks behind everyone. You guys will get as far ahead as you can, and I'm coming for you. And it seems like right now the only thing stopping Angel Torres reaching 15 to 20 goals this season, the mark that he set for himself, is either the mooted potential transfer to Korea or an unfortunate injury, which, knock on wood, we really hope doesn't happen.
But hang on, if he leaves for Korea, and all of you can answer this, is he going to do an Alex Chidiac and win the Johnny Warren medal, only playing 50% of the games? Mind you, he's ineligible because he got sent off. But could he poll the highest number of Johnny Warren medal votes in only half the games?
Could he do a Chris Gray?
I think... Yeah. That's a very niche AFL reference there, Tabano.
Who's going to collect
the no-sharing rule?
If he were eligible and he won it in absentia, who's going to collect it on his behalf? Who's going to be like the envoy that he can send in his place? That's the question to mull over. But
maybe one of the MAFFS boys could go up, since we've been spruiking his name. He is the face of MAFFS. If the MAFFS mantra was in a player, it is Angel Torres.
Now, Nick, before Josh tells us what he found the most fun this week, I need to take issue with you, because 34 minutes into Bologna versus Sassuolo, you need to tell us your whereabouts and what you were doing, my friend, because Christian Volpato has now been the youngest player to score a goal in Serie A for the last 3 seasons, which, to be fair, given he is 20, isn't the greatest reflection on Serie A. But putting that aside, explain yourself, Nick.
What do I need to explain? What do you want me to say?
I don't know. Everyone's subtweeting you, mate. I mean, it seems as though you've become, the patron saint of Volpato. So where are we at?
I'm glad to see that he's scored. I'm glad to see he made it. He scored. I think that was one of his first starts as well. And to make an impact like that's great, because, he had a bit of a slow start at Sassuolo. He wasn't playing a lot of football. He's taken his opportunity and he scored. So, you know what? All power to him. It's great. And I hope that now in the next March window, I know this isn't the response that, it's not the most fun response, but I just hope in the next window he can make a decision, because I think, performances like this, if it keeps going, he should definitely be in the Socceroos camp come March. So, yeah, there you heard it. Cap him. If he wants to play for the Socceroos now's the time to do it. There you go. Are you happy now,
Before the show, Debano, you were telling us there is no place in the game for someone like him. Now, it's a pretty big U-turn to come out and say this now. The look on your face then was pretty good.
That's defamation, Joe. That is pure another defamation.
That's actually
it's slander.
No, it's great. I mean,
slander, but yeah.
I'll put it bluntly. I'll just say from day one, I never said the kid didn't have talent. I just said we had to park it at the time. So we had to park the hype because he hadn't played a lot of football. He'd scored, but he hadn't played a lot of football. But now he's played a lot more football since then. He's doing it, he's getting starts now for Sassuolo. Hopefully it can continue. And if it does, then now's the time to do it. So I'm really glad to hear that, he's kicking on and he's playing some good football because he's got all the talent to be a very, very good player.
So, Josh, just as a segue into what you found the most fun this week, would you ever consider traveling halfway across the world, selling out a stadium, having everyone chant your name, mob you at the airport, and then spend the entire 90 minutes on the bench? Because as much as people in Hong Kong were not having fun, do we think Leo Messi enjoyed the experience of trolling an entire nation, or do you think ultimately he did not have fun?
I mean, it is a bit funny. Look, you pay for a friendly match. That's what you get. Go support your local Hong Kong. Where are you in the league matches? That's what I want to know. Where all these MLS snobs out there in.
Where are you when Kitchee FC are playing, Josh? That's my question. Where are
exactly?
you?
Are you coming out to support Diego Forlan?
Well, the Senior Shield final between Kitchee and Easton is on Sunday at 6 p.m.
Exactly. That's what you should be buying tickets to, not some nonsense globe-trotting friendly for Inter Miami. No, I mean, to be fair, they did splatter his face all over the marketing to this game. So I imagine we would have seen similar scenes of booing and protest if the same thing had happened for, so let's say, the A-League All-Star game, which is not out of the realms of possibility. It might happen again. But Teo, how do we make the Socceroos exit from the Asian Cup fun? Because
you don't have something that you made the most fun this week, Josh?
Well, I was going to say, mysterious red cards after the final whistle that weren't picked up by anybody. But I guess Tolgay Arslan missing a month of football isn't fun. But what is fun is speculating as to what he might have said in order to get a ban like that. But those speculations maybe not fit for broadcast. Teo, how do we make the Socceroos going out in another quarterfinal of an Asian Cup MAFFS?
This was a real challenge. How do we make the Socceroos going out MAFFS? How do we make it fun? Now, I decided to turn to the world of memes. This is the meme I have chosen.
Oh, here we go.
So
That's
for those of you listening, this is the bell curve IQ meme. So on the left of the meme, we have what more could Arnie have done? In the middle, right at the top of the bell curve, we have Arnie out. And then on the far right of the bell curve, we have what more could Arnie have done? Because let's be honest, like, what more could he have done? You got his biggest fans who are at the left end of the bell curve. He tried his hardest. What more could he have done? And then over on the right of the bell curve, we know what we signed up for. What more could he have done? And then in the middle, Arnie out. So I think the answer is the Olympic qualifiers are coming up in April. We just need as many of that squad to graduate to the senior squad as possible. And for all the complaints about the players that are being produced by the A-League or the style of football that the Socceroos implement, the guy in charge is the one that picks the team, and he has options, and we're about to see them all. And whether it's Iran Kunda or Qual or Tilio or Chikati or Volpato or whoever, if you're going to pick a team of meat-grinding henchmen, then that's what you're going to get. And maybe we can pick a team that's a bit more fun. That's how I would make it MAFFS.
Well, what I want to know is, what is the national footballing strategy of Uzbekistan? Like that's what we need to look into. That's the next review. We've had the Dutch Revolution in Australian football. We've had the 4-3-3. Can we have the Uzbek Revolution to produce the next generation of Australian talent?
Did you
otherwise, Arnie simply can't compete.
Did you see the penalties against Qatar? If you want to have a laugh, both teams, to be fair, took some of the worst penalties you will ever see, but every Uzbek player was bricking it before they took their penalty. It was actually a minor miracle that they even scored one.
Do you think that for this South Korea game, Ange Postecoglou made a little phone call on the day of the game and said, Son, you got to do it for your country, but you've also got to do it for me, because I can't have another manager lifting an Asian Cup. I can't have anyone else matching my achievement.
I think Ange would be hoping for the opposite thing. I think Ange is missing Sonny and wants him to come home. That would have been the best result. It's an Australian win, but also he gets his captain back, who he's missing so much. But Teo, you mentioned before the Olympic squad coming up. Do you actually see many changes from the henchmen that we saw? And I'm talking...
Honestly, yes, I do, because unfortunately, I think we have kind of signed up to exactly what we got in the same World Cup qualifying cycle, which is every 2 months when we have an international break, it'll be, is Arnie going to keep his job? And then all he's going to talk about is how we don't have a centre of excellence. And it's just going to be that holding pattern. And yeah, we'll pick off the teams we should beat, a bit like the first round of qualifying when we won 11 straight on the road to 2022. But as soon as it gets tricky, we know we've seen this before. And, you know, our federation, who our clubs and governing bodies elect, decided for more of the same. So, and that's why the bell curve at both ends, fellas, both ends, you know, what more could Arnie have done?
Yeah, I think it depends on which word you emphasize in that sentence. I would emphasize the word Arnie, as in what more could Arnie have done? This is what we expected. This is what we get. Any further Socceroos thoughts before we move on from this godforsaken game?
I think Bolton Twitter's up and about right now. Yeah, Bolton Twitter were probably the happiest section after probably all of South Korea. Probably Bolton Twitter were the second lot of happy people because they get one over the Socceroos and get, even though, you know, losing to South Korea isn't, you know, it's not like it's an embarrassment per se, but I think they'd be quite happy just to, you know, get one over the Aussies after what happened, you know, sort of with all the Geth and Jones agenda that's happened if Seb was leading in. But
I mean, a lot of what the Socceroos did in this tournament reminded me of the Matildas. Like, they have kind of been dragged towards how the Matildas approach things. And I mean, I don't fault an experimental lineup. I fault who was in the experiment. Like, if that's the experiment, then the scientific method is the problem, because you can experiment with someone other than Geth and Jones, surely. And Bolton Twitter did not cover themselves in glory. And at least now, like any good heel, all of Australia has a team to cheer against, which to be fair, I find that fun. We all have, were they League One? We all have an investment in League One now.
And can I just say, as the resident Wigan supporter here, who the arch rivals of Bolton Wanderers, I can tell you that hoping for Bolton not to get promoted this year is certainly top of the agenda. And if they don't get promoted, I can tell you that I reckon Soccer Twitter is going to have an absolute field day feasting on the carcass. So Bolton Twitter, you know, they better get promoted. Otherwise, like, people are coming for you.
Well, I mean, speaking of having agendas against the Wanderers, I guess we should talk about Marco Redan.
Oh, isn't that beautiful?
Bolton or Western Sydney.
Segue, Josh. Jeez,
that's really good, Josh.
That's why they don't pay me the big bucks.
You know, I was thinking about the show before and how much of a good job you're doing hosting. I completely forgot Stoll was even part of this program because of hosting like that, mate. It's going to keep you on.
Well, keep blowing smoke up my ass. That'll help. But did anyone know what Rudes meant? Because I found it a completely nonsensical diatribe. Is he saying that the league has a problem with those working class, salt of the earth folks who labour away in Western Sydney? Is he saying that the league, the country, the referees, who is against the Wanderers, and how is it manifesting? Because one goal line decision goes against him, and he just completely went off his rocker.
I mean, it was directionless. I think that if you're going to do something fan servicey like that and appeal to your supporters to rally around the club, he could have done everyone a favor if he had just actually been a little bit more specific. If he had said Rebecca Wilson, 2015 SCG Trust League, David Gallup not sticking up for the fans, that could have, I know it's ancient history for a lot of people, but it still matters. The fact I can quote it off the top of my head means it still matters to a lot of people. You go up with a vague accusation, it really is the Garfield meme of, oh, who's that for? You know? But at least if you name names and you are specific, like negging Adam Kernsley, you know, or what was it, Kurt Amsley? I actually have already forgotten which was the referee because he got his name wrong. I mean, so I'm not sure that. Look, he'll have his show cause notice for what he said about the referees, and that will, you know, he'll cop his whack, fine, touchline ban, whatever. But I feel as though we came to talking about the agenda against the Wanderers, he sort of circled around good point and really could have done the game a favour had he put the SCG Trust League back on the agenda, because I feel as though a lot of people in the game aren't going to move on or come back to the game until they actually receive an apology for how that was all handled.
I mean, Redan usually is good value in presses. Usually he knows what makes good TV. And sometimes he started making self-aware remarks about about it. He's like, oh, box office, here's your quotes, whatever. And I'm like, well, I don't like him being self-aware about it because it kind of unveils the artifice of what he's doing. It's like, oh, here we go. I'm winding up and this is going to be good television. It's like, it doesn't come from a sincere place when he starts doing that.
Yeah, but
Well,
maybe you're
reminds me,
overestimating how many members of his team actually pay attention to what he says in the media. I mean, if this is designed to create an effect and he can tell us he is creating the effect as he creates it, well, then he's Penn and Teller all in one.
Fourth wall shattering in front of our eyes. Nick?
Josh, I don't know if you were there that day when he was still at Western United, when he gave a similar sort of preamble when he was like, you're in for some box office today in his post-game presser, because they had that 0 draw with Victory and they had 2 disallowed goals, famously remembered for fireworks, the pyro person for Western United hitting the fireworks a second early. So Piraeus was celebrating, the flags up and the pyros going off at Amy Park. But he gave like a really concise, like he actually had a point to what he was saying, as you mentioned, Josh. Like he was like, I used to work for Fox Sports. I know there's not enough cameras anymore. It was not offside. The angles are all wrong. So he had like a real clear thing. But as you mentioned, guys, like it was just kind of like it's like when you have a lot of thoughts in your head and you've got a lot of different gripes. There's no real rhyme or reason to it. And you're just angry and you got to get it all off your chest at once. That's why they say write everything down and, slowly work through it one by one. So maybe Rude should have had some dot points and gone like, okay, point 1, angry at this. Point 2, point 3, maybe it's a different way to do it. But it just went everywhere. It was this, that. It was incredible.
No, but again, Nick, that's an excellent point because he again circled a good point about fan culture. And this is pure maths, right? We want active fans. We want them singing. We want them numerous. We want them noisy. We want them to have a magnet effect on people that don't sit with them because they want to come along for the atmosphere. We know it works. It's a proven winning strategy in the A-League. It is, fundamentally mathsy to want better crowds, louder crowds, more colourful crowds. But the Wanderers, is Mark Rudan unaware that his own club negotiates their stadium deal? Like, if you want active areas that have pyro, if you want active areas that have noise, color, colorful characters, people who may have broken the rules in the past and might need exemptions to get back into stadiums in order to keep doing what they do, well, that's your own club. Like, why would you tell the outside world? That's an HR email, topic, return of active fans. Dear HR. So it can be done, but you have someone as smart as Rudan who knows how things work and knows the process of how things get made, because, as you've said, he's lifted the curtain to show us that he pays attention to detail on how these things get done. Why wouldn't you actually try to make that change rather than just shout it into the abyss? Shout it at people who, frankly, saw the ins and outs list and are incredulous that Brandon Borrello didn't even make the bench.
Well, I mean, if he's going to scream bloody murder about something, he should scream it about the price of the tickets in the away end at MacArthur. $45 for an adult ticket to the away section. I mean, that's just clearly trying to price gouge the away supporters, and I don't think that should be allowed. Regardless of how expensive the normal general tickets are. I mean, if fans are willing to travel even within their own city, you shouldn't be paying $45, surely.
No, it seems silly. What I want to know is, there's been a lot of talk about VAR and whether it should go, and if it was to go, what to do with the money. I think surely goal line technology is more important facet. Every match and A-League game is played should be at a venue that has the goal line technology. I think that should be the first thing that should happen before
Joe,
VAR.
that sounds like Unite Round every week in one stadium for the entire league, mate.
Exactly. And
isn't the reason we don't have goal line technology that it's like 10 times more expensive than what VAR costs?
Potentially. More cameras, as a certain way to look at it. Because what I'm trying to say is, if that ball, which was judged not over the line, do you think that he blows up post-game?
If they get a draw...
He's still unhappy about the non-red card for Jermaine. Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that was point number one in his rant.
Yeah.
But
what if they won and Jermaine still didn't get sent off?
I think he still would have been upset, but again, it wouldn't have been to the extent that he did. It wouldn't have been I don't care about Borrello. This is what I've come here to say. I think he would have slightly put in a few jabs, but he really, I think that took it to the next level. The fact that kind of should be expected.
Is it time for us? I know, again, I'm going to break the no sharing rule for the second time on this podcast, but is it time? Like, I mean, you talk about it being expensive. You know, the AFL have got the ARC system. Do we just get, there's enough conjecture about the slow-mo cameras there. Do we need something like that? If we need to go something a little bit cheaper for a little bit, is that the alternative? We go the ARC and then we're going to have
goalpost Snicko.
Yeah, we've got the Snicko and seeing if it just crossed the line, the keeper Stingo as well, whatever could work.
Keeper cam, perhaps.
Well, I mean, one theory I've had for a while, and I think I have suggested it in the public arena before, is the APL, and it may be tough under the current circumstances, but I really think they should operate their own security company, and all security guards at A-League games should come from that one company. So you control the training, you control the education, you control the intel and the IP, and you vet who you hire. Because I'm sick of reading the horror story pop up on Reddit all the time. Apparently there's one secco at Suncorp in Brisbane who makes it their mission to make football fans experience as miserable as possible every time there's a Brisbane Roar game on. Why are we still reading this, I really do think, like, if we're going to think outside the box as to how to make football more fun for fans, I actually think that a football-specific security company that controls the appointments of all secos to games could be the revolution we need.
Are you suggesting that we need the MAFFS school for security guards who can't security good, and for who want to learn to do other stuff good too?
I know a guy in Victoria who has a very good security company. Josh, Teo, I think you know who I'm talking about.
And he likes to have fun too.
The Mental Club. On a Monday night, the Blue Thunder security guys, led by Costa.
Not a sponsor of the podcast.
Well, look, I will admit, I may have recently listened to the Dollop episode about Eric Prince and Blackwater and how he trained paramilitaries for various mercenary armies all around the world. And I thought, how can I localize that business model to my area of expertise? Now, let's put aside how evil that company was and all the atrocities they committed. I want to apply it to Australian football.
So you're saying you need SAS security, like, who got the reality TV show, will use the same sort of training. Is that what you're suggesting, Teo?
Well, I mean, look, they can do the training, but it's not designed for them to implement it at the games. I mean, this is what we want here is people who recognize the faces and build relationships and understand that, I guess the difficulty is repairing stuff that gets burnt, repairing stuff that gets broken. It costs money, and the money has to come from somewhere. And as much as you can, ask for good quality stadiums, you have to take care of them once you're in there. Or, I mean, what are our alternatives to playing elsewhere? We've played A-League games at grounds with hills. It's not like the active fans have gone and congregated on the hill where dropping a flare isn't going to burn or break something.
I think you've stumbled onto an idea there, Nick. So here's what I've picked up from what you just said. So we scrap VAR, we take the money, and we commission a television show, a reality TV show, where we get whoever we want from the Veneto Club, from the Bullying Club, wherever we want, and we get Ant Middleton, ex-SAS, to train them up, and it's called the Security Guards of the A-Leagues. And we just go on a journey with these wonderful men and women to see them develop into the perfect A-League security guard.
So what you're saying is this is the new show that's going to be on Paramount Plus, potentially from 2025 onwards.
Yeah, and all the security guards get a performance index to judge how they're doing on each challenge. I think it's perfect.
I know it's a Rey Mysterio for two people in here, but I'm so glad it doesn't revolve me anymore. So sorry, fellas.
Yeah.
Shall we talk Mariners then? And shall we talk Torres? It just injects so much joy into our lives. Nick, you mentioned that tweet. You made a bold prediction about his future output in the A-League. There were 4 bookmarks on it, and only one of them was me. So I hope those people. Those people who are awaiting your downfall are smarting about that now. But how much longer will we see him in the league? Is there a point at which he gets too good for this competition? We mentioned, the K-League interest in him. is there some way that we can keep him secret and keep him safe from the clutches of overseas clubs? How much longer will he make it to the end of the season, do you think?
Can we
Mark
do a
Jackson.
fine cotton? Can we do a fine cotton? And when the Korean team comes in for him, they think they've bought Angel Torres, but they haven't, and we just send over a body double or a lookalike. I mean, hey, I got a lot of support for my Red Foo theory last week. I had MAFFS listeners come up to me in my places of work to say, you know what? You're dead right about Red Foo. He is the Elvis of the 21st century.
I'm just glad Red Foo's getting a mention again after we brought him up last week.
I got two theories here, Josh. One, he has general soreness for the next 4 weeks, and he'll be back next week, and he's just sore because the Korean transfer window actually closes in a month. So the Mariners are going to hold tight for 1 more month. Maybe not. Maybe the end of the season might be too late. Or has anyone here seen Sunderland Till I Die?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, so everyone's watched the second season and seen the famous January transfer window Will Grigg situation and seen what happened when, what was his name? Who was the CEO? It wasn't Charlie Methven, it was the other guy. Donald something? Anyways, I'll remember. But
I can only think Donald Sutherland, but that's because you said Sunderland. So
Donald Sutherland.
Was it Stuart Donald, Nick?
Stuart
might have been.
Yep.
It might have been, yes. So he was sitting in the Sunderland HQ with the sporting director, and they were like, we only have this amount of money to bid for Will Grigg, and, this is all we've got. And they have the first 2 bids rejected. I think it was like for 300,000 quid. Like, it wasn't a lot of money for a championship sort of parlance. But in the end, Stuart Donald got so infatuated with Will Grigg and the song and everything like that. I think they ended up spending 3 million quid in the end to sign Will Grigg. And I think Grigg only ended up scoring like 5 goals in 3 or 4 years for them. But do the Mariners need to just hold out and just go, nah? Like, I know the Mariners, the whole thing is about, keeping play, like obviously selling players, like when they get to a certain point, getting the money and developing players. But to keep them to win a championship this season, to go back to back, they just need to go. You can have him at the end of the season, but if you want him now, you got to we're talking like you got to really bump up that price. And you have to wonder if there is someone in Suwon, which is the club linked to him, that is looking at him and going like, geez, we really need this player. They might just go, there you go, take it all. And the Mariners laugh their way to the bank.
Well, Mariners hardball instead of Mariners moneyball. That's what I want to see. But I'll go to the comments. Simon says, I ran into Bruno and Tilio at Sydney Airport on the way home to Melbourne yesterday. Tilio coming back to the A-League on loan after the Celtic stint went slightly awry. Are we looking forward to seeing Tilio back at Melbourne City? And will we have to play him as a number 10 after Arslan got suspended?
Man, that's a really good question, actually. It depends how long he's out for, but potentially he would. I mean, excited. It's hard to be excited about a player that hasn't really featured that regularly for quite a long time now. We all hope. I mean, maybe this is the opportunity that he needed with Arslan potentially going out for a few weeks to come in and get that regular football. But I think the excitement might come when we actually see a consistent few weeks of performances from him.
Blinkers Fisher says Fran Karacic has been found alive, so maybe he can come back into the frame for the RB spot. I mean, good news. Happy for Fran Karacic. I'm glad we've located him and tracked him down. Do we think the Socceroos right back spot will ever be filled, or are we just going to have an endless succession of pretenders to the throne? Is it just going to be like Gethin Jones from all the way down?
I think Jacob Farrell maybe got a right foot hiding somewhere there. Does he have a right foot in his? Does Jacob Farrell have a right foot? Does he have a right foot in his family ancestry? Maybe we can find one there.
Shake says there's a stigmata attached to a bloke with Messiah complex. Very good.
Golf clap. That gets a golf clap for.
That's witty. Is it funny? I don't know, but it's definitely witty.
That's
and he also. He says, just employ Archie, Kevin Muscat, and Matt Simon as security guards. They'll 2-foot any offenders and high-five the rest. I like it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Can I go through the Ollie Roo's most recent squad, right? Callum Talbot, left-sided. Nectarios Triantis, left-sided centre-back. Jordan Courtney Perkins, left-sided. Lucas Moragas, left-sided. Jacob Farrell, left-sided. Mark Natter, left-sided centre-back. It's incredible. What has happened in the game to give us, we're blessed with left-footed players, but Josh Rawlins, 19, back at Perth on loan. No pressure, buddy, but that's the answer. The answer is Josh Rawlins.
Well, it's Josh Rawlins, and I bet you if you're Giuseppe Bovolina as well, they're probably 1 and 2. It's mate, come on, show us something. Even what is it, Panache Madania as well? That's probably the only 3.
I mean, I think Bovolina has shown a bit this year, and Madonna showed more last year and has had injury problems since then. I mean, I guess we're not throwing any of those guys in the deep end for the Socceroos just yet, but I do feel as though because so many of these players are now first-team regulars in the A-League, where previously maybe Australia, maybe it was guided by Euro snobs, maybe it was guided by the developing years of the A-League, we didn't value the men's Olympics that highly. I feel as though the last Olympic team had a massive, massive uptick in relevance. It helps that we qualified, but it feels as though we placed a lot more value on that team getting to Tokyo. And now, in equal measure, we're placing a lot of value on, regardless of whether this team qualifies or not, it's important to see who's coming through this age group of guys between 20 and 22, because it's absolutely realistic that they will be first-team Socceroos by the business end of 2026 qualifying.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about, Arnold spoke at length about the importance of qualifying for the Olympics, but if those players don't make the jump to the senior team, then kind of what is the point of the under-23s, if not the final finishing score in preparation for the big show?
It'd be sad if we qualified for the Olympics, but then called in Gethin Jones as one of our overage.
Imagine Bolton versus Australia round 2. Dear. Edmund says CCM should try and get funding from Football Australia in order to keep and naturalize the Colombian guy.
I think the Colombian guy, Angel Torres, was the first name we touted to naturalize on the pod a few weeks back. And it is unfortunate that Angel Torres, so say that his contract does not expire in June this year, say it's June next year, and he stayed on until the end of the season. We've just seen a few big moves from the A-League. We've seen Gauchi, we've seen even as Aziz got quite a hefty loan fee. How much do you think he could potentially go for if he keeps up his current form until the end of the season?
I think was it you, Josh? You said 3 million already.
Yeah, if Stuart Donald kind of negotiated, maybe they could get 6. Who knows? Maybe the Mariners need to come up with a song for Angel Torres, and it needs to go viral. That might be the answer.
Joe, I'm questioning your grasp of economics, because you think the 1.5 million we're spending on VAR can fund an entire reality show about security guards. How many episodes are you paying for with that 1.5 million, by the way?
It's a good question. Maybe it's just a 1 episode in and out done. We're finished. I'm pretty sure.
Maybe the entire show is recorded on CCTV in order to be appropriate with the theme.
There we go.
It's sort of like found footage.
And we could use those CCTV cameras to put in the goal line, so we have extra technology.
Modern day Blair Witch over here.
Absolutely.
Also, we'll have to workshop
I'm loving Angel instead. Surely is the song we go for Angel Torres.
Yes. We have to make that happen. Does anyone have Robbie Williams' contact number? Perth Glory 4, Melbourne City 2. Teo, you were commentating this game. There's just something a little bit special about those late Perth kickoffs. What is it about this Glory side that make them so MAFFSy indeed?
It's a great question. Look, aren't they now the top scoring team in the league, or did a different team overtake them as a result of playing their own game at the weekend? I'm pretty sure they are the top scoring team in the league. You can correct me if I'm wrong. What makes them so MAFFSy? I don't necessarily think they're bad defensively. It's just they've had a rolling list of injuries throughout the course of the season. Like Mark Beavers has been out for a couple of weeks. He previously had a suspension. Shrewsbury has been suspended this season. Daryl Lachman fell out of favour because his own defending wasn't great. And I think if you're a team that just fundamentally can't leave the door locked at the back, you need to keep attacking. And I have touched on this before. The reason we're seeing players pop up and score on debut is Perth's NPL situation, their academy team, means that they are regularly exposing 16 and 17-year-old players to senior men's NPL. And where you can't necessarily get away with that in Melbourne and in Sydney, you can in Perth. And I think it's making a difference to how game ready these guys are to go in the deep end and play senior football at a young age. And we saw another one. 19's a little bit older, but Joel and Asmo, who I think had scored, six or seven goals in the West Australian NPL from 15 or 16 games in the winter, comes on and looks absolutely comfortable putting away that chance on the counter-attack to make it 4-2.
Teo, can I just say,
sorry,
Josh, Teo, I just wanted to comment, excellent commentary from you on that game. As a commentator, with Anasmo scoring the final winning goal of the game, the name Anasmo, you couldn't really have asked for anyone better to go out the long mo at the end. I was hoping for you'd break out the goal after that. But as a commentator, what is that like the perfect name for a winning goal? It's better than Taggart, let's be honest.
No, because there's a certain 1997 film which a lot of people have made a connection to between Anasmo and the certain film. And you've just got to make sure you don't make the ultimate Freudian slip in a moment like that. You've just got to get it right. If you're wondering, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, before they made basketball, they made a different movie. And you can look it up for yourselves. But look, the most important thing is I never pre-plan anything. Like if I have, XYZ player scores in the last minute to win, here's my line, here's my Peter Drury soliloquy, and I bring out the Elder Scrolls and unfurl it and read it on air. I like to talk to what you see on the screen in front of you. Because even with introductions and walkouts, you never know where like a mascot might do something funny or something might happen, or there might be a cutaway to someone or something in the crowd. And if you're, mid-pitch of, announcing some great, soliloquy to open the game, you're not talking to the pictures. And ultimately, that's what everyone sees. So, I don't pre-plan any of it. And I certainly enjoyed it. I've got to say, the older brother, Josh Anasmo, I commentated his debut season before last when Perth was stuck in the East Coast bubble, and Ruben Zadkovich was giving all of those glory players an opportunity to play, and he ended up playing 8 games. I'm pretty sure he's been released from the glory since, but he is only 21. So hopefully his progress in the NPL somewhere can get him a national second division gig, and it's not the last we see of the Anasmo brothers, because there is an older brother who has already made his A-League debut.
It's the MAFFS way to do it. Don't prepare anything. Just come on and go for it.
I didn't say I don't prepare anything. I got all my stats. I got all my details. But again, there are some stats that I will keep on a stat sheet and never say on air, because if you brute force it, it makes it completely obvious that you only did the research to say it on air. You need the context. And there are some stats that I've had sitting on a sheet next to a player's name, but if the game and the situation doesn't give you the context to use it, it just sits there unused. So,
are there any gems that you wish you could have used and they're now irrelevant? Is there anything that comes to mind that you wish you could have dropped in? Because we'll happily take the B-roll.
Funny junior team names are always the best ones. Like one of my favorites was Harbour Seasiders United. I managed to get that away on air, and like straight after the game, the director's like, "You smart ass Harbour Seasiders." And then this is like 5 or 6 years ago, though, back on Fox. There was a team called the Bethania Rams. Never got to name drop them. So yeah, generally it's obscure country towns, it's obscure team names. One thing that I do have sitting there waiting for certain players to score, foreign players who've come from a foreign league, but their most recent goal was in an obscure game. I think we have at least 2 players who the most recent time they scored was in the Bulgarian league. But I don't think either of them have scored yet this season. So just waiting to... Well, I think there was a game where Beavers scored last season, and his most recent goal was for, funnily enough, I think Bolton Wanderers against Preston North End. And, you roll that stat out. But, yeah, I know, got to tread very carefully. To be fair, Bolton Wanderers fans must assume that Mark Beavers is winning the Johnny Warren medal this year and must be the best player in our league.
Well, Zach Clough is like a cult figure back there. I mean, I remember, just one little, when I wrote the article about him last year, after I spoke to him, I mean, one little tidbit about him playing for Bolton. Bolton Twitter were on it and they were like, "Oh, remember this guy? Like, he was so good. He was supposed to be the next big thing." And they probably do think he's going to win the Johnny Warren medal. Well, to be fair, I mean, he started the season bloody well, and he's probably going to poll very well. But I mean, you might be onto something, Teo.
Teo, where do you stand on nicknames based on players' country towns of origin? Because it's a very very footy sort of flavour to it. You know,
yeah. Look,
the bolter from Bathurst, the plugger from Puckapunyal.
It doesn't take much for non-Victorians to absolutely just abuse you for being a little bit too footy on a broadcast. I used the word corral and had some anon account going, "Oh, it's just like listening to the footy because they're being corralled." It's like, come on, that is not a football's Aussie rules specific term. That word's, I can use that on a Scrabble board. That's not a footyism.
Teo, if you say that someone sharked the ball out of the contest, then we know that, you've really dropped a big footyism in there.
Sharked. If I say that someone has a basketball background, that is when you know that I am deliberately breaking the no Sharon rule in plain sight.
Well, you could, because there's a player for Melbourne Victory's women's team who actually has a basketball background in Paige Zoyce. So, there you go, Teo. There's your fun fact if you haven't dropped it already.
Hey, guess which the next time I'm doing an A-League women's game, funnily enough, it is Melbourne Victory. So there you go, Nick. Basketball backgrounds for everyone.
Lockie Flanagan says, Nick, you have to mention the Jed Zanos anecdote. What on earth is he talking about?
So Jed Zanos played for Bulleen last year in NPL 2, and Lockie and I obviously were doing the
Hang on, is this a stealth cross promotion? Have
Yes.
the three of you conspired to invade MAFFS with your Victorian NPL podcast propaganda?
Yes, I'm coming in with my tank and I'm knocking on the door. Open up, mate. This isn't invasion. This is the Monday Night Wars. No, basically,
Don't just stand there, Joe. Do something.
Listen, mate, I'll have words with them off air. Don't you worry.
So basically, last season, Bulleen had a player called Jed Zanos, and I'll never forget Lockie rolling into the tiny little media box at the Venator Club, and he pulls out his notes and he goes, "Oh, I was doing a bit of research on Jed Zanos, and I found the former club he used to play for. Now, he used to play for a team in Queensland that I totally forgot exactly what the name is. Lockie, if you remember, please drop it in the comments. But the address of where the team played." They played on a street called Steve Irwin Way. Now, Lockie had that in his notes for the entire year. Like, I reckon he didn't drop it for weeks. And then one game, just during a lull, I could see that the cogs turning. He's talking about Jed Zanos, and it's like, see, he used to play for it. I'm like, oh my God, it's finally going to happen. And then he dropped the Steve Irwin Way. And there's a few times we've probably been there, Josh, Teo, when you're doing doing a game and you try so hard not to laugh, and there's times where you just lose it. And I think that was one of two times with Lockie where I've actually had to turn the microphone off and get the giggles out because you have all this anticipation. Then he paused and he just goes, he played on the street was called Steve Irwin Way. That's the name there. BY Glasshouse United in Queensland.
But is that the name of the team?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. I mean, given some of the reaction to the criticism of the Socceroos, I think Glasshouse United could have a lot of new signings in the next transfer window.
And the other little tidbit about Jed Zanos was, and so we used to stream the games on Bulleen's Facebook page, so we could read the comments as they're coming through, like in a lull, like people would comment. And then some of the games, like when it'd be quite quiet, we'd say, oh, if you're watching, give us a hello. And one time, Jed Zanos was on the pitch, but someone was on his account commenting on the stream. So we're thinking like, has he been hacked? Because it was in I think it was in Spanish. So we thought he's been hacked while he's on the field. So the conspirator is watching him going, well, you know what, buddy? I'm in control now, mate. There's nothing you can do about it.
Show me the way to 572 Steve Irwin Way. What a nugget. Thank you, Lockie. Edmund says, a young Josh Rawlins back to glory from Holland. He's a right-sided defender. So all of our national team hopes rest on this teenager, Teo. Are you surprised to see him back?
Not in terms of the amount of game time. For whatever reason, be it injury, be it out of favour, he'd actually been a very regular player for Young Utrecht. And then all of a sudden the game time dried up and stopped to nothing. So Perth Glory has been, pretty transparent about their budget situation. I suspect this is good business in that Utrecht are basically continuing to pay his wages, and Glory will have to give him the game time once he's up to speed. But we also saw Stefan Mork come back again. And whenever I think of young players who kind of misfired on their first overseas move, yes, Arzani, yes, Tilio, but I always think back to Mork. Mork was one of the first ones. Did he go to, was it Vitesse in Holland?
NEC Nijmegen.
Nijmegen, yeah. So I always think of Mork as one of the ones who, like, that seemed like it was going to work. Keegan Jelicic is another one, and it was such a shame he got sent off in his first game back, because when Perth were fun last year, it was largely off the back of Keegan Jelicic, because his individual performances were what was making Perth MAFFS last season rather than the entire team as a collective. So, the Brisbane Roar, they've got Marco Rojas, they've got Keegan Jelicic. Yes, they've had to change coach again, but at least they appear to be putting together some players that are MAFFS, albeit they probably played the toughest slog of the weekend on Friday night. And you compare that to Macarthur versus Western Sydney Wanderers or Perth versus Melbourne City, Brisbane versus Wellington looked like a different sport. Like that one was not a classic by any means.
I'm just excited to see the Ruben Derby not this weekend, but the following weekend when Ruben Zadkovic returns to Perth on the 17th. Kolikovsky will be playing like a man possessed. Is that a real rivalry, or is it just something we've built up on Twitter?
Oh no, I think you look at how badly Kolikovsky wanted to score against Melbourne City, his former club, at the weekend just gone, and like just how devastated he was when he missed that. It was early in the game, and obviously, a lot happened after it. But that one-on-one that he had saved by Jamie Young, you could tell how badly he wanted to score against his former team, and he wasn't able to take the chance when it presented.
Is everybody frozen, or is it just me? Okay, there we go. We're back. Did you want to come in there, Nick, or was it just a frame?
Oh, no, I was just going to mention in the comments here, Josh, another right back that didn't play on the weekend, but was name dropped in that 6-minute presser answer from Marco Rudan was Aiden Simmons. Caden Foley dropping that in the comments as well. So he's another one. I mean, he's been pretty good. So maybe again, they're the three that I reckon they're kind of gotten the call. Like you get yourself into some good form, and it's all yours, mate. There's basically no one standing in their way. So yeah, that's all I've got to add to that one for the right back discussion.
Nick, with the no Sharon rule, here's some other terminology that if I was to slip it in, I would instantly have people complaining to me for calling footy while the game is not footy. Out of bounds always sets people off. If you call it the boundary, or you say the ball has gone out of bounds, anyone outside of Victoria is coming for you. One out in the square.
That's good.
Anything referring to a penalty area as the square tends to get attention. Hard ball gets, and then another one that you might like, depending on the composition of your defense, the third tall.
The third tall. The loose man.
Now that Caitlin Torpey has left Melbourne City, who's the third tall in the Melbourne City defense?
Hey, Angel Torres has snapped a few around the corner this year pretty nicely.
Well, Teo, I think football uses the term snapshot, but it happens so rarely that you might hear it once every 50 games, whereas you would hear the term snap or check side for the banana in an AFL game 25, 30 times per game. So to hear it in a football game, it's a little jarring on the ear.
Imagine calling Imagine calling a curling goal a banana. That would set people off.
I was going to add another point, like another version of the later that, Joe. Teo, if you called it a big bender, that's the biggest bender I've ever seen in my life.
Well, I mean, do we have a long-range free kick specialist in the league? I mean, Daniel Pena doesn't. He appears to have put his long shot away.
What about Costa Grozos?
Costa Grozos is more of a tracer bullet type, though. He doesn't like to curve his long shots, whereas Pena seems like the sort of guy that would enjoy a big bender. Yeah.
I'm thinking of the Dimi Petrados free kick at Amy Park that time. Nice outside swerve.
What happens if a keeper, like his kick just goes the full length of the pitch? You're going to call it a torp, Teo, even though it isn't an oval footy. You're going to say he's unleashed he's uncorked the journey.
The barrel.
All right, we've been called out by our own comment section here. Jess says So many
Alex
Victorians.
Colson has
Edmund
gone the
says
barrel.
too many Victorians.
I will personally admit I am having fun right now. This is bad.
Surely, like, late in the games, you know how like there's like 30 seconds left. The
Red
team's
time.
chasing a
Red
ball,
time.
Goalkeeper gets the ball, picks it up, and they just hoof it long. Surely that's when you got it. You could actually get away with saying they've gone the barrel, like you're just going for distance.
Surely it's uncorks the genie. All right, I think I should move on to the event that was sent to us more than anything else this week. We got tagged in this so many times. It's not Australian football, but it is MAFFS. Arturo Vidal's unveiling at Colo Colo on horseback.
Yeah. So
yes.
Yeah, this is brilliant. This is brilliant. Although the horse isn't in a box or a square where we like to see typically a horse, this is perfect. I mean, if you're going to make an entrance, I don't think there's a better way. Now, we've spoke last week. I think someone made a suggestion in the comments about a signing videos, how each club in the A-League should be forced to make a signing video. Incorporate a horse. I guarantee you will get clicks. Your interactions will go up 1,000%. It's a MAFFS guarantee. But yeah, Nick Stoll is currently looking at this horse. Not so much with Arturo Vidal, but the horse, and getting really excited.
The fact they dressed the horse that's what makes it, really. And also, he's riding the horse in full kit.
Is he wearing boots? Is Vidal in boots?
He sure is. Boots in the stirrups.
Boots or runners? I think they're runners.
No, I think they were boots.
Sure? Adidas would be absolutely thrilled that their logo has snuck in twice to this photo. Like, they would just be delighted.
I would have actually liked to see the horse wear, Adidas Predator on his hooves. Now that would have really made it.
Dear. He was in a king's hat as well, like a crown. I mean, have we ever seen anything as flamboyant as this? I'm excited to have Marco Rojas back in the A-League for many reasons, but mostly so I can ask him about Arturo Vidal's unveiling at Colo Colo, because he is formerly of Colo Colo. I don't know if he got anything like that in his first unveiling in front of the fans. But
you have just reminded me of something extraordinary that is very, very similar. There's a visual gag coming. Apologies, podcast listeners. Sorry, Josh.
Okay, all right. Well, wait.
Nice little taster there, yeah.
a little tea.
So the Utah Royals, when they came into the NWSL, actually set up a throne pitch side, and that is Katie Stengel, after scoring a goal in a game, ran over to the throne, and the goal celebration was sitting in the throne, which was on the side of the pitch.
That's amazing. You can even see the trolley next to it. The stagehand didn't do a very good job cleaning up, but that's amazing. I would love to see that on the side of the A-League pitch.
So
which player needs a throne to celebrate in is the question. What more MAFFS ideas from Colo Colo or the Utah Royals can we incorporate into the A-League?
I assume a throne is what Gethin Jones is returning to at Bolton.
That's his seat in the front of the coach.
Well, is that the best player unveiling compared to? Do you guys remember when Santi Cazorla signed? I think it was for Villarreal, where he was like in a big tube, and then they had a waiter come out and like open the tube, and he came out and smoking, like it looked like a beaker.
Was it like a magician?
Yeah, I think so. Well, I'm googling the thing, and it was supposed to be like he was in a smoked whiskey drink at a provincial cocktail bar, and the person was dressed as a waiter. So it was like he was coming out of a really fancy cocktail, basically.
All right, I got to get a photo of that up here. Is that the best unveiling we've seen? Could we incorporate one into the A-League? I'm asking the comment section as well. Here we go. Santi Cazorla.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, I believe that's like some sort
of... Is that actually him or an image?
No, that's him.
That was him.
That's him. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, the tube came up, I think, and he walked out. Or it unzips at the side or something.
Maybe it wasn't.
Unfortunately, they needed to keep him in the tube to prevent him from getting injured. That was their mistake, letting him out.
Oh,
Very good.
Polite golf clap rather than laughter and response to that one.
Surely Tilio coming out of a box of Tilios, like get a huge box, a big cereal box in the middle of Amy Park, and then you just open it up and there's Tilio comes out. That's his player unveiling for their next home game.
That's really good.
I'm just looking at the comments here. Charmander the Andy says David Gallop has the opportunity to make the most dramatic comeback to Australian football on horseback. Yes, we got it, Charmander. It's in the name. And of course, Alex King needs a throne on the side of the pitch, although that would wind up Marco Redan even more. Fellas, have we got anything else to add?
Alan King.
Sorry?
He calls him Alan King.
I mean, there's your conspiracy, Marco. It's just because you keep getting the referees' names wrong. That's why they want to retaliate against you. But fellas, I think we're in stoppage time here on MAFFS. Any final thoughts before we go? Any cheap plugs, promos? Nick Tabana, you brought up Bulleen calls before. I know you're begging to plug that one.
No, not at all, Josh. I'm not about cheap plugs. No, I mean, just go listen to the NPL Victoria pod season previews.
Hey, listen, this is not the jurisdiction to be promoting. No, of course, you guys do a brilliant job. But may I say, I know you're saying you're not about cheap plugs, and that's true, but we have mentioned the Veneto Club a couple of times in this podcast. So, I mean, they do great deals. I'm sure they've got a Valentine's Day special coming up. If you want to see us perform a live show there, I'm sure kids will eat free. Veneto Club, get in touch with us because...
I think that they actually, this is perfect for last week. I think, I know they always do at least 2 or 3 times a month. I think they have an Elvis impersonator coming up. That's performing there. So Red Foo.
Red Foo.
Dear Teo, where can we hear you this week? You're on?
Yes. It's 4 days away.
Checks the
roster. Rock up at the right time,
Teo. I'm pretty sure. I'm as long as the sun's up, mate. I'm a 1 in 2 chance. I'm pretty sure I'm on Melbourne Victory versus Macarthur this weekend, and obviously Victory currently seeing if they can go the entire season unbeaten and miss the top 6. Are they going to draw yet again? I mean, not to actually delve into serious football talking points in stoppage time, but Melbourne Victory's fans are at the end of their tether. So I will be fascinated to see how they go against Macarthur this weekend, given that Macarthur are a chaos team, and at any given point in time, their match can explode to 2-2, 3-3, 4-4, whatever you like.
Our Liga says Channel 10 need to bring back the 5-minute warning. That would make football fun.
Yeah, some Saturday specials. That'd be great.
I'm actually ready to go back to the first half is 1 minute stoppage time and the second half is 3 minute stoppage time. I'm ready. I'm actually nostalgic for when you had less than 10 combined minutes of stoppage time in a game of football.
Could you imagine, again, the 85th minute rolls around? You remember the 5-minute warning used to come up and it used to have, the real cool sort of animation. But
it was like a bomb, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
I know they can't, change how the clock mechanics work because it's one clock that, there's no countdown, count up clock. But just do it for the theatrics. The 5-minute warnings hit. Plead to the nostalgia.
Well, fellas, it's been a pleasure to have your company this week. Thank you for everyone who's tuned in live and listening on the podcast. This has been MAFFS. Get your questions, your comments, your contributions in during the week for next Monday, and we'll be back in a week's time. Good night.